Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
Chance to Start Over Again by Kalokagathia. Luffy's dream came true, but what's the meaning of accomplishing his dream without his Nakama around? So he's going to go back and start over. Time travel, what else? I don't own anything. Member list. Taz Peterson, Yonko. Leilani Morris, Warlord. Garrick Russell, Warlord. Black Money _ Young Lion, Warlord. KSG PL4 YZ, Warlord. Adios.
Being called by Sengoku isn't the one that placed him on the edge, it's because Akainu is there. He ignored the Marines who saluted at him as he took a sharp turn to the right with a frown on his face. A lot of questions ran through his mind, and all of them isn't good. I can't talk to Straw Hat in the Den Den Mushi, I'll have to talk to him personally. Smoker pauses, clicking his tongue at the same time. This is gonna be a pain if what I'm thinking is true. Thud. I am so sorry, our Rear Admiral Smoker-san. Smoker took a few seconds to process what happened before it clicks on him. He looks down at Kobe, who had disheveled hair and a blush on his face from running. No, I should be the one saying that to you. He pauses as he reaches his hand to Kobe, who flinched before reaching Smoker's hand to stand up. I'll be CA. Kobe. Smoker turned his head to the left hallway as Garp's voice echoed from it, then Kobe began sweating furiously. Refill next time. Smoker slowly turns to Kobe, who gulped loudly and making him raise his eyebrow in amusement. No one would have ever thought this kid would be the future fleet admiral. I'm very sorry, Rear Admiral, but I have to go now, Kobe shouts as he immediately runs away with a horrified face. Smoker only sighs and strides towards Sengoku's office, where he's being called. Smoker knocks thrice at Sengoku's door before hearing an approval to come in. There, his eyes immediately met with the one he despises so much. Akainu slowly formed a smirk on his face as Smoker did his best not to grit his teeth in anger. No words could tell how angry he was at him. He could still remember those brutal days when Akainu ruled the Marines. Sure, the pirates have decreased dramatically, but the Marines also decreased. Only the strong ones were left, including the young ones who had the chance to be a great Marine, and he knew those young ones were brutally trained, causing a lot to give up. Not only that, Akainu didn't care if the innocent people were involved during every battle, he'd just say that the people were unlucky to be there. But after Akainu's reigning, Kobe was there to change it. Ever since Kobe became the fleet admiral, the deaths of innocent bystanders were minimized and the Marines could finally sleep peacefully. Sengoku coughs, making the two break their eye contact. I assume you already know why you're called? Smoker frowns and puffs out smoke, glancing at Akainu before looking at Sengoku. Because Akainu demands to lower my ranking. It's clear that he doesn't want me to gain more authority. Correct. Sengoku pauses, take a seat for now, it's going to be quite a. He glances at Akainu before closing his eyes with a sigh. Long talk. Smoker wordlessly sits on the opposite side of Akainu, not wanting to get any more closer, now that we're all. I'm back. Sengoku groans and places his hand on his forehead as Garp barges in with packs of crackers. A grin on his face as he held a happy look on his face. I couldn't find Kobe. He begins to pout childishly before sitting beside Sengoku. Thought I could ask him to come with me to do something later. Sengoku only looks at Akainu and Smoker, ignoring Garp and let him do whatever he wants. Now, let's get straight to the point. Sengoku pauses, his face turning serious. Akainu, can you tell us why you want to demote Smoker? Akainu looks at Smoker for a second before smirking and turning to Sengoku. Don't you think it's ignorant to promote him suddenly to a Rear Admiral? You may be overestimating him too much. This may show that we are blindly promoting Marines. He hasn't learned about that yet. Why promote him that high? Smoker places his cigarettes at the trash, not wanting to break the cigarette while gritting his teeth in anger. He knows, I can't show that I have hockey or else it'll give out suspicions. Not to mention I'll be given a hell of a work and I may not work on the same task I've been given on my previous timeline. Akainu's smirk grew wider when he saw Sengoku frown and think of his words. Sengoku nods in agreement, you have a point. He pauses, but he has the potential, not to mention the strength, and his leadership is outstanding. He laces his two hands, his progress is also rising up in. I don't mind. Smoker finally says, cutting Sengoku as the three looks at him. I can just work hard for it to show that I'm suited for it. He puffs out smoke, glancing at Akainu who is clearly angry. I see. Sengoku closes his eyes for a second. I thought it would be quite a long talk. It seems like I was wrong. It's a good thing Smoker can be someone you can easily talk with. He proceeds to look at Akainu. Is that fine with you? Akainu clicked his tongue, his brows furrowed in anger. It's fine. While Smoker won the conversation, it didn't mean that he was completely defeated. You still have less authority, Smoker. He smirks, not to mention I can still order you around. Then this conversation is over. Sengoku pauses, Smoker, I'll have to talk to you. Sengoku then looks at Smoker with his indifferent solemn face. It's about your previous misdeed. Smoker sighs, glancing at Kainu who he made eye contact with for a second before the door made them lose the contact. With Sengoku's keen eyes, he saw what happened yet kept quiet. Now that Akainu left, Smoker looked back to Sengoku. Smoker, Sengoku starts, can you explain it to me why you left where you were positioned in? Smoker puffs out smoke, his eyes closed. Let me hunt Straw Hat Luffy, he finally says, his now opened eyes focused on Sengoku. Even Garp looked at him with a surprised face. Soon, Garp laughs loudly, slapping his thighs furiously while tears were falling from his eyes from laughing too much. Wait, he pants, calming himself down. For a while, he finally calms down. But when he looked at Smoker's serious face again, he laughed harder, now rolling on the floor while clutching his stomach. Sengoku's eyebrow twitches, looking at the scattered chips on his floor. Stop scattering chips on my floor. Garp. Sengoku shouts in anger, a tick of annoyance on his forehead. How much further do you want to embarrass me in front of a marine? Garp was gasping for air, now holding on to Sengoku's table for balance. Alright. Garp starts, swiping the tears at the end of his eyes using his finger. Go and hunt that stupid grandson of mine. He pauses, ignoring the shocked look of Sengoku. Wait. Knock some sense into him, Garp adds, patting Smoker's shoulder. Smoker only smirks, puffing out smoke as he nods. Oh oi, I'm the fleet admiral. Now, go kick his ass. Garp pushes Smoker towards the door with a grin, not giving any room for argument. He proceeds to open the door. Good luck. He pushes Smoker out, then banging the door to close it. Wahahaha. He proceeds to put his hands on his hips, almost looking like he was satisfied. Sengoku finally snapped and stood up, proceeding to walk towards Garp and slap the back of Garp's head, ending the laugh. Sengoku was practically in flames, stopping his urge to bury Garp in the ground. I'm the fleet admiral, for the love of… Sengoku cuts himself off, sighing and rubbing his forehead to ease the pain he was currently feeling. Garp only laughs once again, not affected by how Sengoku acted. Sengoku soon points at him, a solemn look on his face. You'll be in charge and responsible for him, got it? Yeah. Garp waves his hand around as if hitting a fly, laughing a little. Sengoku makes an exasperated look but proceeds to sit back on his chair and pick some paper in anger. Garp proceeds to sit on a sofa, making himself comfortable. Garp makes a boisterous laugh, a grin never faltering on his face before his eyes turning serious. I thought it would be longer. I mean, this is Akainu we're talking about. He comments later on, making Sengoku hum in agreement. But still, the tension between those two is surprising. That comment made Sengoku's eyes leave from the paper he watched as if those two knew each other. Sengoku furrows his eyebrows, placing the paper down on his table. It seems like you noticed it as well. O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O. Mahahahaha. A familiar dark violet-haired person laughs, here at last. A villager falls down with a thud on the snow-covered ground with blood. At my beloved, soon, more thuds along with villagers who were beaten badly follows, leaving an annoying voice instead of the roars of the villagers that were now on the ground. Drum Kingdom. The person huffs, HMPH, to think they'd put up watchguards in the short time I was gone. The man says as he looks around, looking at the fallen villagers. But he soon takes more attention to the tall snow-covered mountain. Ah, those grand, majestic mountains towering over all else as always. He pauses. Chess, is my castle, right? Chess, who was looking over his binocular, soon lowers it. It appears to be in a good shape, your majesty. Mahahahaha. Wapple then leans, a grin on his face. Onwards, Robson. Robson is a large white walkie with long white fur and an appearance similar to a hippo. He has long legs, and Wapple has placed a saddle on his back for him to ride on. Wapple, seeing that Robson wasn't moving, makes a sly face. What's the matter with you? Robson grumbles. Are you still angry that I killed your brother? Robson grumbles once again. Stop grumbling. Mofu. I'll give you a nice reward soon enough. Robson seemed to be surprised by that, grumbling. That's right. Robson grumbles, making a pleased face while visibly brightened up. Your Majesty, a green-coated man comes running towards Wapple. I have an urgent report. Wapple turns his head towards the green-coated man with an annoyed face. What is it? The man points using his pointing finger at a familiar sheep-headed ship. It's those pirates from yesterday. He pauses. Their ship is docked by the river. What? Waple's face darkens, gritting his teeth in anger. His brows furrowed and a vein throbbing on his forehead. Those straw hats dare tread foot upon my kingdom. He says angrily, those S have quite the nerve, after what they did to me. He fully turns to another green-coated man with his hands clenched in anger. Find and kill every last one of them at once. Cold sweat runs down on his forehead on the said random man, a troubled look on his face. Well, that's, the said man pauses. None of them are presently on their ship. What an incompetent bunch. A tall clown-like man, Chess, says with his arms crossed. Chess is a man who is a bit taller than average. He has wavy lips and a sad expression. He wears a checkered jester-like green-blue costume with purple lining at the end of the sleeves. A white winter cape with purple lining, that he ties against his chest, and gray buttons, with a light brown bow and a bag of arrows on his back. He has dark green pants and blue shoes with white buckles. Looking at the footprints left behind in the snow. It seems they've headed for Big Horn, Your Majesty. Another man with an afro, Kuromarimo, says with his hands crossed and resembled with an X. Kuromarimo sports a long, orange cloak, with white lining and black afros at each end, and white afros hanging from the front. He wears gloves that cover all fingers but his thumb and resemble an afro. He has a large black afro on his head, and 3 small ones on his beard. He is of medium height and normal weight. He wears a shirt that's orange in the middle and white on the sides with light yellow buttons, along with orange shorts. He has hairy legs and black boots with white laces. Overall, Kuromarimo resembles a boxer. Well done. Wapol says with malice in his tone, then we shall first head for Bighorn instead. Wapol pauses. Let us celebrate the rebirth of Drum Kingdom with their extermination. Dalton frowns, hearing how bad the ruckus is outside his house. Usopp also noticed this too and looked back at the door with his brows furrowed in annoyance and anger. What the hell is happening out there? He looks back to the panting Luffy, a worried look now on his face. Dalton stood up, about to go out when all of a sudden, a man barges in with a panicked look. Dalton, the man shouts, not noticing Luffy's poor body behind as he only focused on relaying his message. With a deep inhale, Wapol's back. Suddenly, the room became tensed, silence engulfing the place. Dalton's face darkens, his brows furrowed and his mouth into a frown. Dalton proceeds to wordlessly go towards his sword. I have to settle things once and for all. Dalton picks his sword up, turning towards the door. I'm not doing this. Dalton's grip on his sword tightens. For justice or other such noble intentions, his face and body structure slowly change, resembling a bison, shocking Vivi and Usopp. After all, you and I, the man steps away, letting Dalton go out, are guilty of the same crimes. He takes a breath of air, seeing Wapol grinning maliciously in the distance with his soldiers burning houses. Just you wait, Wapol. Lead me to that stupid straw hat immediately, Kureha says before looking at the worried reindeer and looking at Nami once again. Who knew he'd be the one that I would help later on, she muttered under her breath, slightly cursing. Then, let's go. Nami turns, immediately jumping to her horse along with Sanji, who did the same thing. We shouldn't waste any more time. Chopper. Kureha gestures to Chopper, immediately going towards her with a sleigh at his back, and who the hell knows how he did that in such a short span of time. Let's go, youth. Luffy spoke as if he was an old man, even adding the tone before plopping clumsily at the railing as he watches Usopp and Chopper play around, making the others who were there to hear him shoot a perplexed look towards him. He laughed loudly, knowing that they won't even understand what he just said and that it'll confuse them more, much to his amusement. Aren't you one? Zoro spoke in a not quite a question tone as he chuckles lightly, waking up just a while ago so he could ask Luffy to spar for a while. However, he seemed to have changed his mind when he saw Luffy just enjoying his life. It's not every day that they get to rest and laze around like these moments. Yeah, don't look at us like you're not young anymore, it's weird. Usopp commented as he looks at Luffy unimpressed, holding some kind of toy in his hand with Chopper that may be their weapon that aren't deadly in their game. Chopper, on the other hand, ignored what his friends were saying and focused on the toy that was too out of his reach. If it was possible, he would have transformed. But that's cheating, as Usopp stated. Well, it depends on the question. Luffy nonchalantly waves his hand in the air with a grin, making the others more lost than they were before. He sighs loudly and quite dramatically, stroking his non-existent beard. I'm an old soul, with an old yet young life. That did not help at all. There was a moment of silence before Chopper stopped on what he was doing and tilted his head slightly to the side with a confused look. What? Chopper soon looks at everyone, hoping for someone to answer the question that was running in his head. Old yet young life? Nami repeats as she was stupefied like others. Mind making that clear for us? Luffy laughs with his eyes closed, a grin on his face after laughing. When the time comes, the truth will soon reveal itself, my dear navigator. He soon goes to his favorite spot, going Mary's head. Soon, they'll know. Just not that soon. Someday, when the time's right. The others became more confused but decided to let it go, thinking that it's one of Luffy's weird antics. Meanwhile, in a far place from the Mugiwaras, Smoker groaned loudly as he got another pile of paper. Smoker-san, doing that won't do anything to the papers. Toshigi chirps amusingly as she places another pile of paper in front of Smoker, who seems to be debating whether to quit his job or throw the papers away. Both won't do any good, and it'll also backfire on him. Smoker only sighs, causing smoke to puff out and to dissolve as it was with air. He then looks at his hands that are placed on the desk, a pen on his hand. I'm too old for this is abusement. Smoker whispers his complaints to no one and unfortunately, Toshigi seems to hear that. Excuse me, Toshigi looks at Smoker with a confused face, making Smoker silently curse and sigh once again. This time, it sounded more annoyed than the last time. Not that Smoker regretted doing that, all he ever wanted was peace. And now, only Toshigi is the witness of this act. Nothing, you may go now. Smoker shooed her with a neutral tone as Toshigi salutes and goes out with one last look of confusion from her, making Smoker shoot her a glare and place his pen down on his desk to rest his hand. He looks at the mirror on the right side of his room, looking at his old, young self with a slight hint of nostalgia and sentimentality on his face. Those days were certainly times that he doesn't regret, even though some were bad times. He then remembers those times where he kept chasing Luffy, making him chuckle slightly at the thought. Because now, he may not be trying as hard as before. Was it because they established a friend-rival relationship and learned a lot of things with each other due to what happened those days? He still can't forget those days where the two of them just drank rum on bars, not minding their positions for the time being and drink away their sorrow together while talking together. What he would give just to return to those times, except without the sorrow and mistakes they had done. Well, there's no use doing this now. Smoker just shakes his head once again, looking at the pile of paper coldly like it was an enemy, an obstacle that needs to be immediately removed. You'll need to go away from my desk, papers. He glared at the papers gravely as he picks up his pen and starts doing whatever he had to do and go back to his tempting bed. Sanji. Luffy shouts as he barges in at the lounge, a stupidly large grin on his face that Sanji and the others knew so well and what it meant. Sanji clicks his tongue, glaring at Luffy after finishing the 30th meat that's for Luffy. Damn that straw hat, too gluttonous, where the hell does it go? No, Sanji immediately replied back with the same volume of Luffy's shout a while ago before the black-haired male laughed and sat down on the chair just near Sanji. And no, you can't take some meat, shitty straw hat. Luffy laughs once again, his eyes crescent yet brimming with happiness. Sanji resisted the urge to ask where all his energy and enthusiasm comes from, aside from food. The guy can get as bright as the sun even without eating food yet. How'd y'all know that I would ask that? Sanji makes a forced smile that was painfully obvious, his fists up until it was on the same level of his chest and it was obvious he was trying his best not to snap at Luffy. Because you always ask that, Sanji's volume slowly increasing until he was shouting at the end. Seeing Luffy so amused at the sight made Sanji soon sigh and calm himself down. Damn Straw Hat was enjoying this, and he won't waste his energy. Just go and bother someone else, shitty Straw Hat. Luffy sighs and puts his hands up in the air, admitting defeat. Alright, Prince. You got me, this pirate captain shall go away now. Sanji's eyes widen before he immediately turns to look at Luffy, who is now gone. What the fuck? Sanji gulps, sweat falling from the side of his forehead. Don't tell me he fucking knows. Oh, Sanji. If only you knew. Meanwhile, on Smoker's side. Smoker sighs in content and relief as he lays down his bed exhausted, already finished the papers and now just waiting for Toshigi to come and take it. He then looks at the ceiling, his cigarette on the ashtray that lays on his bed table. Now that they know Akainu also time traveled, it made him frown just thinking of what'll happen. Especially at Marineford. Smoker thought as he clicks his tongue, knowing that there's a huge possibility that Luffy's cover will be blown up. It's more troublesome if Luffy snaps. Everything might change. Smoker just sighs and rubs the temples of his forehead, not wanting to think about it all. Just those two names and one event can make his head feel like being drilled. Fortunately suddenly, someone knocks on his door. Smoker immediately sits up, taking 3 cigarettes to smoke. Come in. Toshigi indeed comes in, without no papers in hand. That made Smoker sigh in relief, knowing he wouldn't have to work anymore. It's already noon. Smoker Junsho, Commodore. Toshigi pauses as she takes the papers, looking at him with a smile. You should sleep early, we'll be docking at an island tomorrow morning. Smoker nods, wordlessly going to his bed as Toshigi goes out and closes the door silently. Indeed, he was tired, and that helped him to sleep. Soon, the light and calm swinging of the ship was enough to relax him. The silence is also an addition. Smoker closes his eyes, beginning to fall asleep. He wouldn't mind chasing after Luffy after this for good old time sake. Luffy's eyes glistened in sorrow as he looked at the sea, his coffee slightly going back and forth along with the ship. He started sighing before drinking his coffee silently, the moon's light illuminating on his skin to give him an ethereal glow. No words could tell how much he misses everyone, how much he wants to laugh with everyone complete once again, how much he badly wants to. But he must wait, after all, he should be patient. He has already achieved his dream, but his goals have changed. Find One Piece and let his nakama achieve their dreams alive and well. But things have been much harder than he anticipated. With Akainu his mortal enemy there, the higher risk of his nakama to be in danger. What's worse is that he's limited of what he should do. Unlike Akainu who the marines, pirates and citizens alike expect him to be incredibly strong. He has no way of finding out what Akainu can do to him or to his nakama, but he won't give up his second chance and effort that easily. He unknowingly smirks, the memory of him beating Akainu running through his mind. How he wished that he finished Akainu that time. If only the rest of the goddamned marines didn't come with help. He grits his teeth slightly as he frowned with a look of rage and disdain. He couldn't accept that Akainu was in a hospital that time in a coma. He wanted Akainu to thoroughly suffer. He was so angry at that time, to the point where he mindlessly and brutally slaughtered all the marines whether they gave him an answer or not, just to track his whereabouts. Luffy, Zoro suddenly shouts up after going out from the lounge room, surprised to find Luffy outside with such a look for such a wonderful and cold night. The glow that made his complexion beautiful was truly a sight, especially when Luffy turned to him with a calm smile that is a rare sight for a guy who looks like the sun. Luffy's silky hair seems to dance with the cold yet pleasant wind, his straw hat hanging and seemingly enjoying the company of the air as well. Zoro, Luffy's face softens, smiling at Zoro who just woke up. You shouldn't be awake. He scolded lightly, with no actual tone of his supposed to be emotion. He couldn't find the reason to actually do so, since they were free. That's why he became a pirate in the first place, to be free. I know. Zoro ruffles his hair, yawning as he did so. He slightly grimaced at how his hair was a mess compared to Luffy's. Damn, how the hell does he do that? Even Nami takes hours to make herself look presentable, and Luffy made it look like it was nothing with his bed hair. It was like he slept, woke up, then poof, he was magically enchanting and pleasing to the eye. I just woke up too early. Zoro pauses and removed those thoughts away, his observant eyes darting towards Luffy's serious half-lidded eyes. I guess you haven't slept a wink as always. Luffy only chuckles lightly, looking at the rising sun. Correct, he chirps dazzlingly as Zoro proceeds to walk towards Luffy until he was beside him, also leaning on the railing, looking at the sun a well with sake that he took from Luffy's side in hand. Zoro decides to quiet down and enjoy the calming sea, the cold and fresh air, and the nice little sunlight from the sun. It was very pleasing. Surprisingly, he was just fine with Luffy being uncharacteristically quiet. They could do this for as long as they want, but they have a lot of things to do and goals to achieve. As soon as everyone wakes up. Luffy sighs, then spoke with a soft voice. The sun beyond the mountains glows. The yellow river seawards flows. You can enjoy a grander sight by climbing to a greater height. That poetry was made before all this, long after his nakama died. So it didn't surprise him when Zoro looked at him with a mildly confused face, along with curiosity. He had changed a lot after that event. He had done his best to live for his nakama. However, his soul was already dead the moment his family then passed away. He did not eat an immortality devil fruit. But when he traveled for a long time towards east, he was taught to live a long life. Longevity was what he aimed that time. As long as he, the Pirate King, the captain of the long-dead Straw Hats, is alive, then he can fulfill his nakama's last words. Live, Luffy, that time, when he was much calmer, much more terrifying, he had adapted well to the east. He may have lived at East Blue, but he did not travel too much since his goal was to be the Pirate King. But when he explored, he was enlightened much more than before that the world is truly a mystery. Not even a man who has lived hundreds of years can discover everything. Besides, living that long is torture as well. You live for hundreds of years, seeing the fall of your loved ones and see them die whilst you live. You can only have so little in exchange for immortality. It's a sad path, but it is what others long for. It may be a tempting thing, but you are ignorant to not know the price. What? Zoro's question made Luffy snap out of his trance. He had to do a double take to know what the hell came out of Luffy's, about all people, Luffy mouth. He would have bet all his money that Luffy can't say a single word about poetry, even something wise, and would have lost. Thank goodness they haven't made that kind of bet yet. Nothing. Luffy closed his eyes and shook his head before returning to his usual self, grinning brightly to Zoro. He turns away, slightly running towards the door to lounge for food. Zoro, let's go wake everyone up. Zoro huffed. Nevertheless, he can't say no to that. He follows Luffy, a grin also plastered on his face. Fine, I'm coming. Wait, don't close the door yet, oof. It's a new and lovely day. His body hurts, his mind was like a puddle. He couldn't think straight, but he knows that his body was getting worse, much faster than when it was Nami who held the illness. At this rate, he might as well die. He was already feeling cold, and he knows that the next one will be the burn. And after that, Luffy groaned, panting as he tried to get rid of those thoughts. He still had lots of things to do. If he can't change those, then nothing will change at all. All he had done before this was just the start. He still has a long way to go. This stupid fever won't break him that easily. He's the future pirate king. Damn it. A little fever isn't as bad as thousands of cuts. Of course, a wiser side of his begs to differ, but he'll pay no mind to that for now. Luffy ni, those words sounded so weak, but he tried to focus on those words at Vivi and Usopp. The least he can do is give reassurance. You'll be fine, you're still going to be the future pirate king, right? So hang on, Luffy ni. I believe in you. Luffy smiled weakly, but it can only hold on for a while. He felt happiness, but it was short-lived as the coldness began to intensify. He gasped for air, furrowing his brows as his smile completely disappeared. NGH, as much as he did not want to trash around, it was too much for him to bear. His immunity, which was already too weak, became weaker. The illness will overtake him. That, he was sure of. Oh oi, he felt Usopp shift beside the bed, placing a hand on his forehead, and it hurts. He turned his head to the side, trying to avoid physical contact as much as possible. When was the last time he got so sick to the point he reacted as much as this? Even when he had so many injuries and even a large damage, he had never acted like this. He cursed silently inside his head as his body shivered. Even when Usopp tried to cover his body with a warm blanket, he still felt cold, too cold. He coughed out blood, and Vivi could only wipe them away for her friend. Vivi, on the other hand, could only hold on to faith that Luffy will definitely live. But as she felt Luffy getting worse by each second, she could only imagine a wilting flower, unable to be saved even when watered or taken care of. When she touched Luffy, he reacted as if her touch burned Luffy. When she spoke, her keen eyes saw the slight grimace Luffy tried to hide from her because of the oversensitivity his body was reacting. Vivi can do nothing but hope. He felt so useless. All those who can fight, grab your weapons and head for Big Horn. Outside Dalton's house, the citizens were in their own problems. They stood prepared, with weapons, to protect their land from Wapol. Even with a strong defense, Wapol easily destroyed what they prepared. They were mere people, after all. They were no soldiers, nor trained to act like one. The least they can do was this. Hurry! The men raised their weapons, shouting words of encouragement. They knew they were in clear disadvantage, but they were already dead set. Running away will only be cowardly, and a shame. No good will come to it. Nothing will they achieve by fleeing. They may live, but that will always be gossip behind your back when known. Already ruining your reputation and life the moment you chose to turn your back from those that expected to be saved. It was a moment of life and death for them. They live if they live, they die if they die. If Luffy was healthy and strong, he could have stopped this. This was what Luffy thought as he heard those faint noises outside as he struggled. He does not regret saving Nami. That was something he willingly did wholeheartedly, but he regrets not being strong enough to provide any more help. If he had taken care of himself, had not gotten himself anemic, he would still be outside, still helping despite his failing health, and not like this. Yet being anemic was only a small price to see what the world had to offer to Luffy when he was still living, breathing only for his Nakama's wishes. No matter how dull it may be, it was what he decided. Wapol has returned, grab your arms and prepare to fight, follow after Dalton. To Big Horn, it's time to protect our country. Take arms and head for Big Horn. Kureha, if possible, would have been pacing around in worry. That kid was a good child, very nice and kind. That boy, the moment he grinned at her, she knew that Luffy had already wormed inside her poor, old heart. They may have stayed for only a while, but it was enough for him to make everyone be attracted to him like a moth drawn to a flame. He was like the sun, so bright and a never-ending supply of light. However, inside, he was also burning. Kureha knew that the boy hid burdens. Even only judging by how his eyes were, it was enough for someone as old as her to understand that he had gone through unimaginable pain. It was intense, so painful, that Kureha would have been fooled that he took a devil fruit to keep himself look so young. Luffy's bright persona made her almost forget about those thoughts, and she knew that he seldom did it on purpose. What she did not know was that Luffy was truly old. Dalton's place isn't that far. Chopper, hurry, Kureha gritted her teeth. Brows furrowed while Chopper even paced up faster, also worried that his Nakama, his captain, may get worse to the point that, even in his animal form, he shed some tears as the thought was too much for him to bear. Years had passed as he looked forward to meeting Luffy. He did not expect it would end up like this. Hearing his captain and friends slowly dying, waiting for their help. It was a reunion he did not think of, rather, at all. He imagined that Luffy would come saving them, with a bright grin on his face. He imagined that Luffy was fine and strong, meeting him as brightly as he did when they first met. It did not come true. If he can handle it, and I hope he can, we'll take him to Drum Castle. But if he can't, we'll help him to the point that he can take the pain to go to Drum Castle with us. Kureha gripped the slate tightly, hoping for the best. His health is already worse enough as it is. If he moves around, Nami bit her lip and looked down with a crestfallen and hopeless look. Even someone who is not as knowledgeable in parts like this knows how bad it'll affect Luffy. Her captain can hardly breathe normally, and his health would even worsen even as he just laid down the bed with a blanket. Kureha clicked her tongue, knowing that they had to go faster or else. Wapol, the damn bastard, looked around as his big mouth was crunching on a big piece of wood, its little pieces flying around. He stood proudly and arrogantly on top of Robson. As soon as he finished, his cocky words came out as if it was his second nature. Delicious. Behind him, the houses were burned by Wapol's men, said people also in disgusting glee as they raised up their arms with the same happiness as Wapol. The poor people could do nothing but stand, protecting their loved ones or themselves from any wickedness Wapol can still inflict. With their homes burned, surrounded by Wapol's men, they could only hope for the best. Listen well, my citizens, everything that exists in this country is nothing but food for me. Kuromarimo, tell the people why I'm so great.
Kuromarimo, with a smirk, bowed his head down to Wapol. The fact that you are king proves your greatness, your majesty. It had only increased Wapol's selfish ego. Had the villagers found the way to speak, they would have buried all of Wapol's men along with the said man with criticisms, or maybe something worse. Alas, if they spoke even one word, Wapol would order to cut off their heads.
Ah, nothing like a nice roasted house cooked to a well done on a cold snowy day. When Wapol was done, Kuromarimo took it as the chance to kneel down, still smirking. Now then, according to the reports, it seems the Straw Hat Pirates have found Dr. Kureha and are now heading towards the Drum Castle. Or so, a villager told them. Almost as if Straw Hat was a cursed word, he immediately snapped his head towards Kurum being gritted by himself and a deadly glare that appeared as soon as he had heard the pirate crew. What, and why is that? It seems they're looking for that witch, Dr. Kureha. Apparently, she's made the castle her new home during your majesty's absence. What, if it was possible? His rage was fueled more by hearing that news. The nerve of that old woman, living in his castle. He stood up, fists clenched. That hag is living in my castle. Although, people knew he does not deserve to be the owner of that castle ever since he had acted so wrongly towards his supposed-to-be citizens. More so when he had turned his back on the people, leaving them helpless under Blackbeard's attack. Wapol had no right to be angry, the people thought with bitter rage. How long does that traitorous hag intend to make a fool out of me? I'll devour that hag along with those pirates, my subjects. Prepare to leave for the castle at once. That's as far as you'll go. A swing of a spade, oversized blade was what it only took to bring Wapol down. Wapol let out a pathetic cry as blood oozed from his cut, thrown away from Robson and to drop onto the cold, snowy soil. Kuromarimo stood up, his smirk gone and brows furrowed as he looked at the man who dared to hurt the one who he served. Who's that? The people let out a gasp, worry, and happiness as it was someone who they could trust. Worry, since this man was attacking recklessly. Happiness, since they had been given hope. These two were fighting inside the villager's heart, and their worry seems to only worsen when they knew he would die for his country. Wapol thrashed around in pain. Yeah, I've been cut, I'm going to die. That's precisely why I came and I'd be glad if you did. That voice was what Wapol knew so well, and so did Wapol's men. He landed on the ground with a confident form, his face the same as it had always been. Dalton, Luffy, the Pirate King, Luffy, with wide eyes, looked at the source. His clothes were covered in blood, someone's blood. His face had been splattered by those same blood, and his hand. It was buried in his chest. Was this a new dream? A forgotten memory? It can't be the latter. He doesn't forget anything this important. Not since his family had gone away. The man smiled, despite the fact that he was dying. It was simply happy and content. He was not angry. Luffy does not know who this person was. His face was blurry, but judging by those clothes, he was the fleet admiral. But who? Surely, he would have known who this person was. That voice, it seemed familiar, yet not at the same time. The voice was blurry, a cacophonous sound, yet he can decipher what words he was saying. Was this a dream? It may as well be one, but it was too realistic to be a dream. He wants to remove his eyes, get rid of these feelings that bubbled so intensely inside him for some reason. He felt tears cascading down, his breath getting erratic as the man fell down to his knees. To his surprise, he followed and kneeled down as well. No, Luffy knew it came out of him, voice so weak and broken. He was not in control of his body, as usual. His body started trembling, letting out small sobs. No, I'm sorry, this. He felt it. He felt the man go cold at a tremendous rate. Was this truly a dream? He can feel, he can taste the bitterness. He can hear himself so clearly, but not the man's voice. The man was dying, and he was hurting because of it. Clearly, this man was important to him, but who? I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Luffy kept repeating, hugging this man softly as if he would break. I shouldn't have let it go. I shouldn't have let my emotions get ahead of me. It was just like the last time, when they died. These thoughts was Luffy's. You shouldn't have been hurt, why you? Luffy felt a cold hand on his back. slightly making circles as if it was him who he needed comforting. It hurt him, his body going numb and the guilt had soon taken him. "Thank you, no, no," Luffy sobbed, for the first time in a long time in his former timeline. That, he was sure of. He was in his former timeline, considering his clothes. The male leaned on him, losing strength as much as he was losing his life. The pain was too strong, his heart clenches tightly. "For everything, Luffy-san," and the hand fell down. It felt like the Marineford War all over again. "This was your fault, Straw Hat. Who, you ran away again. From the past, from the guilt, from everything. Ran away." His place turned dark, very dark. The body turned into ashes and disappeared. Everything felt cold again, but much worse. "Straw Hat, Monkey D. Luffy, the Pirate King, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, you lost everything. You lost your nakama, your homeland, Shanks, and even him. You ran away when your nakamas died, and you ran away again." No, he did not run away. What was this person saying? The bad memories flashed in front of him, each of them. Ace's death, his nakama's death, that man's death. "Look at how pitiful you are. The Pirate King. Ha! You're nothing but a coward, not even living yet breathing. You deserve a painful death, yet Gold D. Roger gave you a chance to start all over again, as he also did. You deserve none of it. You should have died with your nakama. You shouldn't have even decided to live to begin with." He gasped, not being able to breathe anymore as his body burned. "It hurts. Carry the burden you should have carried. All those blood in your hands, the bodies underneath your feet. Your greediness caused you pain. Your loss, tell me, was getting One Piece worth it? In exchange for One Piece, you let people die and even your comrades. Surely, you were content. You were happy to have One Piece, to finally achieve your dream." No, of course not, his nakama, they were priceless. A treasure much more important than One Piece and his life itself. Priceless, you say? Think, you hypocrite. Wasn't it you who killed them? They died for you, and never achieved their dream in the process. Take responsibility. Accept the fact that it was you who killed them. His body was burning so badly, when it was first cold, his body went warm all of a sudden, as if death. "Straw Hat, even in this timeline, you will lose everything, and it will all be because of you." "No, FY, no, don't fool yourself. Monkey D. Luffy, I already know your downfall. This is not a guess, Straw Hat. This is a prediction, something that I know that will happen soon. Don't lie, I came here to save everyone, get out of my head. You can't save everyone, Monkey D. Luffy. Even if you saved your nakama, your brother, and every person you dearly care for. Get out of my head, up, you can't even save yourself." Faintly, he hears Roger somewhere, shouting with an anguished voice. "Luffy, don't let him get to you. You're stronger than this. You can defeat," and a repeated chant of, "Go away." Hands shaking, it was slowly raising up without his permission. He tried to fight, yet it was too strong. It raised up, until it reached his neck. If you can't save yourself, then you can't save anyone at all. He was being choked by his hands. It clawed, drawing blood until it pooled down the ground. He looked in horror as his lower body got covered by his blood, until it covered the whole ground. He was dying. He can't die yet, he still has to. "I'll help you, Straw Hat. Why don't you die right now?"
SNAP. Luffy. A scream left from Luffy's mouth as he threw his head in pain, eyes rolling to the back of his head as he felt each and every limb hurt in every way as possible. His body arched, trembling as he felt his life slipping away each and every second. It felt warm, too warm. He had felt dying for so long, yet all never had reached this point.
"Lock him down." Hearing those words made his primal instinct awaken. He felt cornered, a dangerous spot. He was going to be killed by these people. These people, he may not be able to see anymore, but as here he can still fight back, he can still kill. As soon as he felt hands lock his parts down, he thrashed his body wildly. His mind screamed, "Get away, get away." As soon as his scream ended, he choked. He could not speak. He could not see. This isn't good. He's losing his senses. Kureha felt the others panic, but she was doing the best she was with the limited items she has. With Luffy thrashing around, it was becoming a harder task than it was originally. What will happen if he loses his senses? Usopp asked before grimacing as Luffy was choking, almost as if he was running out of oxygen. His hands along with the two women were shaking as they could barely stop Luffy, and they were worse when Luffy shouted. It was as if there was a surge of vibration that surrounded the place for a second, so strongly they felt their consciousness slip before coming back when Luffy choked. It was so strong, but faint, they could not describe the feeling. They could never think about it too much when Luffy was suffering in front of them. "It means he's gradually dying," Nami answered bitterly, tears already falling down her face as she bit down her sobs, trying to be strong for Luffy. Kureha, with furrowed brows, worked with precision and profession as she was trying to help Luffy, even for a while. Just enough to calm him down. They weren't even inside the house yet when they heard Luffy's scream far away. That sound alone made them hurry up more than they can the last time. When they came in, Vivi and Usopp were there, trying to hold Luffy down as he was shouting words like, "No," or "Lies, lies." It was so painful to hear. Anguished sounds that left Luffy will be forever engraved in their minds. Luffy was so strong, they almost forgot he also needed help. He only stopped for a second, almost as if dead, and he was not breathing. Then, he screamed. What happened next was what was happening right now. Sanji grunted as Luffy's hand escaped from his grasp, and then got hit by the very same hand that helped him, the very same hand that was reached out to him, for a new path. He coughed out blood, damn Straw Hat, letting himself get controlled by a stupid thing. He struggled a bit before holding Luffy's arm again, not letting it go away anymore. He fears that, when Luffy wakes up and hears that he had given them too much damage, he'll burden it for the rest of his life. That is not endearing at all. Oi, shitty captain. He let out a small gasp as he felt his body almost got lifted by Luffy's single arm alone. However, he was able to regain his ground as soon as he noticed it. You better not die just because of this. Luffy Nee, please wake up, Vivi pleads despite knowing Luffy cannot hear her. The sight of seeing Luffy like this made her think that it was all her fault for dragging the Straw Hat Pirates into her problem, dragging her Luffy Nee. It was just like a breeze when Luffy was grinning at her, supporting her and teasing her. It passed by so fast, she already missed his platonic hugs even when she didn't need them. A long time ago, she told him to not spoil her so much. Right now, with Luffy on the brink of death, she regrets saying those words to him. Ack! Luffy curled his fingers into a fist, gritting his teeth, as he felt his soul having two minds. Delivered to naught. Right now, only Kureha can keep him alive, not that he was conscious enough to know that. Dalton, the said man, now in his full bison form, was struck with 3 green arrows, thus, making him one of his legs kneel down. He wore a grave expression, face darkening and sweating as blood profusely oozed out from its place to the point it pooled down on the snowy land. The people who shouted with anguished voices stopped on their heels, knowing that those shots were meant to be taken by them, not Dalton. Chess made a dark, smug smile as he lowered down his bow. That soft heart of yours is your weakness, Dalton. It was unfair, that not only did they have the upper hand in experience and people, they also knew Dalton very well. He was in clear disadvantage, and Wapol with his crew made sure to use it to the fullest. Mahahaha. A most fitting death. Wapol laughed cruelly as Dalton fell down the ground. Even when he was kneeling, he still looked as brave as he was. It was what the people thought as they looked in horror, of seeing Dalton take the damage for them, no matter how stupid it was. Even the MD-20, the doctors that secretly despises Wapol, thought so. They had no choice but to help Wapol from his wounds, afraid that their heads would be cut off because of their foolish decision. As soon as the man was back on his feet, his mouth ran to no end. The Maryland 20 narrowed their eyes behind Wapol's back, their minds bitterly saying, all bark and no bite. The Maryland 20 can only look as Dalton and the people, albeit. Little confidence tried to shoo away Wapol, who can only think of their words like trash. Just a while ago, Dalton easily defeated a number of opponents with one strike. But with people who he needed to protect, here he was, slowly losing blood on the land of his fatherland. The people shouted Dalton's name again, but their worry only increased as the ground beneath them shook. Wapol and the others seemed to have noticed as well, eyes widening slightly in realization. What's that shaking? An earthquake? Oh, it was much, much more than that. Everyone get away from here. It sounds like a big one. This village is gonna be hit. The trees, still quite far away from the village, were literally swept away like a piece of paper in the wind. By an avalanche, the ground is shaking. Usopp shouted with a trembling voice, all of them staggering slightly from the vibration. We're going to be in. Shut up, Usopp, Nami shouted back, still focusing on placing Luffy down. The man was unaware of his surroundings, but at least he was getting better. The least they need was to make Usopp shout some things that will make them worry and get sidetracked from helping Luffy. Just focus on Luffy instead. There was no need to panic, there was no trouble at all. It was just a small earthquake. That's right, it was nothing large. The woman who they had just seen a while ago, the one that Usopp bowed to, they clearly remembered, barged in, sweating as she looked at them in worry. What are you doing? When she was about to go away, she had seen a glimpse of color behind the window. She was brave enough to pause and warn them. The avalanche is coming, and it's big, run away before it gets to you.
An avalanche. Usopp hesitated, feeling Luffy's trembling and thrashing arm on his hold. He gritted his teeth, ignoring the woman who gave them one last look of worry and pity before going away. What a nice timing it had, making sure that Luffy is to be in danger, or worse, dead.
What should we do? Nami's voice broke at the end, closing her eyes shut as she sobbed lightly. It was too much, all of it. These problems, why were they piling up one by one the moment Luffy was in grave danger? Was it too much to ask that they want their captain to be well soon? The door was slammed open once again, but this time, it was a blessing. The sound of the door suddenly banged open to the point it could have made the others flinch. revealing someone who they didn't expect. Really, who would want him at a time like this? Usopp's eyes widened and gasped in fear. Nami trembled as she momentarily lost her strength on her legs, falling on the ground with a thud as she almost lost hope of having her captain live. Meanwhile, Vivi decided to snap out of her unnecessary trance and stood up, hoping she can be of help when the need arises. Sanji, he gritted his teeth in anger, his face filled with darkness and frustration. The grip on his captain tightened before shielding the thrashing male with his body, protecting his captain from him. "Get away, black-leg Sanji. What are you doing here?" the blonde growled, not letting the man have a glimpse of Luffy's anguished face. Of all people, why did they have to meet a marine? Someone dangerous, to boot. Smoker. With a huff of the marine's cigarette in displeasure, he took a step forward in the room and immediately went forward towards where Luffy is. Sanji immediately reacted and lifted his left leg, swiveling it towards the man's face when, to his surprise, Smoker merely stopped his attack with the defense of his arm. As if it was a button for both Nami and Usopp, they both shook away the fear and shock, positioning themselves in front of Luffy's body. Kureha didn't try to react too much, but seeing how every person in the room so tense affected her, she couldn't help but glare at the unwanted visitor. Smoker, for a while, looks at the reindeer near Luffy's side but returns his gaze towards Sanji. He's not in the mood to question anything at this rate. He's been flying and rushing for who knows when the moment Luffy called him about being sick after he questioned the male's slightly heavy breathing and faint groans. He was about to scold him about how reckless he is and almost gave bad news to the sick pirate when something hit him. Luffy rarely gets sick. Heck, the man's too stupid to ever catch one. A fly, even if it's Kestia, shouldn't affect him that fast, even get him to the point of slowly losing strength at a horrifying rate. Good thing that he followed his instincts and went ahead of his crew to be able to apprehend the Straw Hat quickly, inconspicuously as well, to make things better. They might be rivals, but he'd rather not have Luffy die from something they could have healed. Besides, they're both time travelers, not to mention people who are important in the future. Smoker would rather die than say it out loud, but he prefers Luffy as the Pirate King instead of some wicked pirate. The man did become who he wanted, but Luffy had never hurt innocent civilians nor provoke a fight first. "I chased you damn Straw Hats." Nami bit her lip, clenching her fists around her sole weapon. "Now, if you want to finish whatever you need to finish, then let me take that Straw Hat so I can beat him back to his senses." Smoker's face had a mixture of urgency and annoyance, and really, how can they believe such words from a person who's out for their captain's blood ever since they met? It makes Sanji want to scoff out loud, laugh, and beat him instead of saying those things that are almost unbelievable. Why would you even help our captain?" Usopp spouted out of disbelief, his mind half at the thought of Avalanche coming towards them and half at Luffy's well-being. "You're just going to get rid of him the moment you get your hands on him." A sigh left Smoker's lips. "Heard there's an avalanche coming down." That seems to increase the adrenaline in the Straw Hat Pirates' veins, much to their displeasure. "You have two choices. 1. Let me have Straw Hat for a while and have him come back to life with less problem on your hand. Or 2. Reject me and have Straw Hat slowly die from mental stress along with his disease." The ground rumbling with some of the furniture and hanging designs fall, if possible, could have driven the three insane, and with how short their time is to answer Smoker's words. "I just need all of you to leave for a while and then come back in when I say so." Well, the pregnant silence excluding Luffy's groans and grunt was all they could hear inside, tense to the point they might be able to physically cut it with a knife. The stampede outside made it worse, reminding them how they have to speed up unless they want to die with Luffy inside the wooden house. The first choice basically screams danger. They don't want to hear in the news tomorrow that their captain finally got apprehended by the Marines. Most probably dead by the hands of the person they had no choice but to trust. Just imagining coming back in with their captain dead in any way sends shivers down their spine, even slightly making them puke in horror. But the second choice sounds crueler, letting Luffy die in a tortuous way along with them. Finally, Sanji answers, "If something happens to our captain, we'll hunt you and give you a painful death." Smoker merely scoffs. "O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O, it's coming, and it's not slowing down at all. Crap, this whole town's going to be buried, run for it." The people, due to panic and fear, most probably forgot about the fact that Dalton couldn't move, kneeling in a critical state with his injuries. However, Dalton knew that he can't blame them. People will and surely secure their lives and loved ones first, especially when you see a stampede of people with dread on their faces, affecting and urging you to join in amidst the frenzy. His mission is not done yet, a voice whispered at the back of his mind screaming at him to stand up because he can see them, hear that so-called cane. How despicable, he bitterly gazed with his vision seeing red how selfish Wapol is, ignoring the doctor's scream for help as he rode Robson, running away with Chess and Kuromarimo with his dear life. How can he call himself a king, when he does not know how to treasure his citizens? Did he ever think that no king can be called as one without people to protect, that he is despised by everyone who he calls his? If he's going to die, then he'd rather bring Wapol and his loyal subordinates along. O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O silence. The whole town brimmed with snow, muted after it had fallen on the poor people that didn't have any chance to escape the avalanche.
If it had been painted, it was sure to look like an unsettlingly serene landscape, with the roof of the houses that got buried only to be seen along with snowfalls. It didn't last long, however, when crunching sounds can be heard by Wapple's overlarge mouth, slowly rising from the piled snow above him. In a moment, he stops, only to abruptly gulp the snow he had been eating before proceeding to get away from the hole he had made and vomiting his comrades he ate to protect them.
Coughing, "You three taste like bad syrup." Wapple grimaced, trying to spit out the taste he took in. After the sting went away, he scowled with his veins popping up on his face in rage. This must be their doing. Chess stands up from being disgorged just a while ago, disorientation engulfing his whole face. "Come again, Your Majesty." Meanwhile, Kuromarimo steadily tries to stand up as well beside his confused comrade. "They said Straw Hat and his crew were climbing the mountains right now. Did you forget?" he fumed, clenching his fist to the point they could have seen it turn white if he didn't wear black gloves. "Then it's obvious, isn't it? They've been waiting up until the mountains until we'd show up so they could have their revenge." "Ah. Of course," Kuromarimo and Chess exclaim in surprise as if a bulb popped out above their head, lighting up at the same time. "So it was them who caused the avalanche just now," Kuromarimo adds, both of them sitting on the dented hole Wapple made, listening to whatever their king let out. "Is it true all the ropeways to the castle are gone now?" "Yes, according to the villagers, Your Majesty." "Then we'll climb up the mountain too," Wapple decides, gritting his teeth as an ominous look sets itself on his features. Winter warfare is all about. "Oh, only if they knew. O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O. Ah, for the love of." A certain lost swordsman shivers, half naked with his glorious bare chest displayed for no one in the vicinity to see. His black pants, doing nothing to stop the frigid air from the attack of possible hypothermia, is all that he wore. The fact that he had been buried by the snow due to the avalanche makes it all worse, not to mention not getting the fish he chased after in the freezing water. And of course, getting lost after that. A random avalanche on top of this freezing cold. Talk about a bad stroke of luck, he shakily mutters, wrapping his arms around himself to find even a bit of warmth. How is he not dead? Looking around to at least find a random shelter or better, someone who can lend him help, he spots a crowd of civilians looking troubled. Raising his feet that feels as if it's already frozen, he strides towards them with his body unconsciously curled. Approaching the nearest male civilian who's holding a gun and clothed with a winter coat, he stops on his tracks. "Yo, what's going on?" When the male turns, Zoro gets greeted amusingly with a shocked look that soon morphs into one of worry. "What's going on with you and your half-naked body?" Seeing that Zoro impatiently looked at him, the male shook off his worry and pointed at the black-coated men that seemed to block the people's way, their guns and swords displayed to threaten them or worse, kill them. "The avalanche buried Dalton," the bearded man grits his teeth, "but these bastards won't let us dig him out of there." "Beat it, peasants, Dalton's already dead so deal with it." Zoro raises his eyebrow despite the cold, running a memory lane to see if he can even remember them and making sure that Luffy won't scold him after if he does something reckless. As if Dalton could die that easily, the people fought back, hastily as each second, Dalton might really die the longer they just stand there. And you're his former subordinates, don't you have a shred of compassion? "We're servants to one man only, and that's King Wapple." The man pauses, "Any who goes against his majesty's will is as good as dead." His scowl turns into a smug grin, raising his gun to threaten anyone who comes close to them at all. "If you've got any complaints, feel free to step forth." Mockingly, he lets out a little laugh as the people could only look at him with furious looks on their faces. "Or do you not even have that much courage now that your precious Dalton's dead?" His ego soon deflates, however, as Zoro abruptly charged at him, backfisting the man's face in midair to the point his face almost flew to the side, much to everyone's surprise. "Screw it." Zoro thought as takes the man's coat and wears it, despite the chaos he made in the background. He lets out a sigh of pleasure, only for a while, as he soon makes a small mischievous grin before looking at the group of men that ran towards him with their weapons raised at him. "I'll just call this self-defense, if Luffy asks later."